So I know that's terrible, but can't play anybody else's music on here because YouTube will create a copyright infringement case, or I mean, it's not that complicated. They just won't upload it to YouTube. Not that it matters that this is on YouTube, but it just makes it harder for anyone to listen, if anyone wanted to. I know nobody's listening, but I just wanted to quickly talk about what's going on with me. I have I can't even get into like the things that are wrong, like the impending dark cloud that's headed my way constantly, but I have a history with self-destruction, and I don't know where it comes from, and I think it's the thing that's led me to more despair, really, because I think the crisis in my life now is a crisis of meaning, financial crisis, and purpose, a crisis of purpose. So I don't really have a future. And I think that I've always put everything, all of my joy, all of my, all the things that I need in life I've rolled that into whatever relationship I'm in. I shouldn't say whatever relationship I'm in. I rolled that into the relationship I had with Rachel. But before I met Rachel, the most important thing to me, and the most important thing in my constitution, really, is being in a relationship. And that sounds so superficial. Like I really don't like putting this stuff into words, vocalizing this stuff, because I'm just so terrible at it, and it minimizes what's going on, what's really happening. But it's not on. I could say that I derive all of my satisfaction from the relationship, but that just sounds so textbook, and it sounds so so paint by numbers what's going on in my life. But that's just not the case. Like, it's not that I derive satisfaction from a relationship, and that I need praise, and that I need to be loved. I mean, on a very basic level, yeah, that's true. But who doesn't, one of Rachel's major foundational needs was to be loved by someone who put her first. And I think we're all a product of the way we were raised, but I can't figure out my disposition based on my childhood, because my childhood was pretty good, you know. I think that my parents were not very happy for a long time, and my mom, the kind of arguing that happened in my house was really scary. It was like, and I think that's why I'm, on a positive note, like that's why I'm able to handle having terrible things said about me by someone, and not taking it personal, because I had terrible things being said growing up, and I shouldn't. It's tough to say that because I know people. It doesn't compare to what some people have gone through or the things that some people have heard, because I'm sure people have heard worse. You know, I know that they have. I've heard things. I'm like, have a friend who recently told me some of the things that her mom would say when she was growing up, and I can't even talk about it. I can't even give a response after hearing that from her, because so the things that I think are the most beautiful and hold the most dear, and the things that are sacred in my life, are people. That's broad, because it's not most people. I don't really care for most people, honestly. But when I see somebody who's like, infinitely beautiful, or someone who's just remarkable, someone that's like, I feel like the world has a few like precious souls, ancient souls that are and I think the tip of the iceberg, like the top of the mountain for me, if you're talking philosophically, is to recognize one of those people and to merge with them. Like, I think the thing about the relationship with Rachel that was so profound to me was the levels that we went through, and towards the end, having no space between us. No spiritual space, not much physical space, and certainly no, our needs became one, really. And towards the end there, man, like the unseen part of what it is to be alive as a human, the thing that you can't quantify, there is something. I think there's no doubt that there is something else besides like biology or matter or cells or things that can be explained or seen through imaging. There is something else. And Rachel and I, that something became both of our, each individually, that thing that exists in all humans. I think that something is a piece of the big thing, the invisible thing that's connecting all of life on planet Earth, in the universe. There is an invisible tide that connects all these people, and I'm starting to think that it's the intention, that tide, that original event was an intention. Like, whatever God is, God had an intention when being a catalyst to the world that we live in. When that world began, there was an intention behind that. And I think the intention, in a very basic, in a very elementary way of describing it, is love. But if you're hearing that word, love, can mean something very different for someone who has not experienced it on a certain level, than it does to someone who has experienced love in a really profound way. Because love is not a crush, and love is not lust. It's something really, really deep and different, and sacrifice. And I really think it's when you let go of your individuality and your identity merges with someone else. That's when real love happens. That's when life becomes something else. So without Rachel now, like, it's really hard, obviously, and I know, and I had that with Rachel. And I like long for that. And I think before I met her, my number one goal, like down to my, like if you get to a very deep place, like philosophically, or like the essence of somebody, this need to merge with another soul, and the need to have that soul rely on you, and the need to be relied on, and to show up for that person, and for them to lean on you, and for you not to snap from the weight. Because I think that's something beautiful, you know. I leaned on her a lot throughout our relationship, and towards the end, she leaned on me, and man, God, it was everything. It was so hard and so terrible and so tragic, but it was like the moment that I was called for. It was like, okay, you know, this is the time to be better. You know, I couldn't prove to her through finances, or prove to her through being structurally sound, because I'm just not. I have never been, and I'm full of self-doubt, and I'm full of self-destructive tendencies, and just confusion and depression. I've had it throughout my whole life, you know. And so to be really leaned on and needed in that way towards the end, to have Rachel depend on me, it was, I'm so lucky to have gotten that before the end, you know, because I longed for that. I crave that. And I think it's why I really seek out crisis situations, because I think I'm pretty good in those situations. And it's the need to want to prove to yourself that that you can do something for another person, or for another person that is in line with that intention that existed before you. And so I think all of us have this thing inside of us, like a leaf maybe from a tree. You know, I don't know if that's a great analogy, but there's this big tree, and maybe all of us are leaves, and we fall off and we die, and we come back, you know, and regenerate. But I think the need is to, sometimes we drift far from that connecting thread that is unseen and, you know, unmeasurable, the thing that is God, or that intention, or whatever. And I think the purpose is to find your way into that. The closer you are to that thread that connects us all, I think the more your life, the more you're fulfilled, really. Because I don't think we exist to acquire things, or we certainly don't exist to like check off the list of things that we need to do. It's just not the case, you know.